A rusted trap, a snapped jaw of iron, and a signature on paper. In 1926, the United States government paid out its final wolf bounty. Not to build something, but to end something. A final act in a centuries-long project. The biological erasure of the gray wolf. Not because it was diseased, not because it invaded, but because it refused to obey. We didn't just kill it, we hunted the idea. And when it was gone, the world began to break. By 1930, the wolf had vanished from nearly every corner of the continent. Montana, Wyoming, Arizona, all empty. 300 years of hunting, and finally, silence. The gray wolf isn't a monster, but we needed it to be. It looks like our companion, the dog, but it lives without our permission, and that made it dangerous. For thousands of years, the wolf lived in our stories, not as an animal, but as a warning. In Europe, it haunted the edges of civilization. The big bad, the thing outside the firelight. Little Red Riding Hood, 3 little pigs, Peter and the wolf. In every story, the wolf was the enemy of order. When settlers crossed the Atlantic, they brought that fear with them. The land was wild. The wolf was wilder. In 1630, the Massachusetts Bay Colony placed the first wolf bounty. 1 penny. Not for safety, for control. The message was clear. Kill the wolf, or the wolf will kill everything you've built. By the late 1800s, the hunt changed. Fear became policy, and policy became science. The government adopted a weapon of efficiency. Strychnine, a neurotoxin. Just milligrams could lock the muscles, stop the lungs, while the mind remained awake. Wolves convulsed for hours, but poison isn't selective. Eagles died, foxes, bears, coyotes. Entire food webs collapsed at the touch of a single carcass. The government called it predator control. The USDA printed manuals, diagrams of where to place the poison, how much to use, which carcasses worked best. It was industrial, systematic. This wasn't removal, it was chemical cleansing. But science wasn't enough. So they sent men. They were called wolfers, hired by the government, paid per kill. Some worked alone, others in teams. They tracked wolves across mountain ranges, waited outside dens for days, studied their patterns, learned their territory. When spring came, they moved, hired to track dens, to wait for birth, to end the next generation before it began. They pulled pups from the ground and killed them by hand. Some were paid by the head, others by the litter. $5 for an adult, $2 for a pup. No ceremony, no record, just numbers. And by 1930, in Yellowstone National Park, every single wolf was dead. The killing was a success. The forest went silent. And that silence was the first warning. Without wolves, elk populations surged. In Yellowstone, their numbers tripled, then tripled again. They stopped moving, stopped running. They grazed riverbanks bare, ate saplings before they could grow. Aspen trees, which once covered the valleys, disappeared. Willows vanished. Cottonwoods stopped regenerating. And when the trees died, everything else followed. Songbirds lost their nesting sites. Beavers, which need willows to survive, disappeared entirely. Without beaver dams, the streams changed. Rivers widened, eroded. Soil collapsed into the water. The system was still running, but it was missing a part. And without that part, everything slowly fell apart. The wolf was not gone everywhere. Small populations survived in the north, in Canada, in Alaska, on the edge of maps. And in 1995, after decades of ecological collapse, something radical happened. Humans tried to undo their own success. 14 wolves were brought from Canada, captured in the wilderness, tagged, transported in crates across the border. On a cold January morning, they were released into Yellowstone. The world watched, and slowly, everything changed. Elk ran again. For the first time in 70 years, they moved. They avoided valleys. They stopped overgrazing riverbanks. Trees returned. Aspen saplings grew 6 feet tall. Willows came back. Beavers returned, built dams. Rivers slowed. Banks stabilized. Pools formed. Fish populations increased. Eagles and ravens followed the wolves. This is called a trophic cascade. One predator restarting an entire system. The gray wolf was never chaos. It was balance. We hunted it because it refused to kneel. But when we removed it, the machine failed. We thought we were protecting the land, but the land needed the wolf. Nature doesn't work by dominance. It works by relationships. And the predator we tried to erase was holding the world together. The gray wolf still exists. Not as a symbol, but as a warning. A warning we are still ignoring. Because the wolf was not the only one. The bison reduced from 60 million to 500. The eagle poisoned until it nearly vanished. The shark hunted for fear. Creatures labeled dangerous before they were erased. This was not the first story like this, and it will not be the last. This is not a channel about animals. It's about human behavior, told through beasts we tried to erase. Subscribe to History's Forgotten Beasts. Watch the next archive, because some extinctions are still in progress.